Hey, my name is Matt Zimmerman. I'm an AI developer, and one question I get asked on almost a daily basis is what is the best image model for generating text on images? And the answer is it depends. I did a test here of 630 different images across 10 different image models with 21 different prompts. And I generated 3 samples for each. The reason for generating 3 samples of each is you can't really tell the quality unless you generate like a couple different examples using the same prompt. So that's why we have 630 images here, completely exhaustive test. I used very expensive image models and very inexpensive image models. Now, if you're thinking image models, what are you talking about? I just use ChatGPT to generate images. Then this is not for you. Who this video is for are people that bring their API keys for these different image models and plug them into some kind of software. As an example, I'm the creator of ZimmWriter, which is an AI writer trusted by SEO professionals. And they'll bring their API keys, plug them into ZimmWriter, and then use different AI image models. So if you're just using ChatGPT, this isn't for you. Go watch your cat videos, okay? But if you are plugging in different API keys for different AI image model providers, then you want to pay attention to this because this is a very exhaustive test. So let me kind of walk through this right now, explain what all this is. And in the description down below, I'm going to give you a link to this Canva canvas, and you can view this at your leisure. The reason I made this in Canva is Canva will allow us to put these images in uncompressed. Now it only allows me to put 300 in at a time, which is why I have 3 pages. So there's a page here with 300 images. There's a second page here with another 300 images, and then a third page here. If you load this in the description down below, you'll have to click this pages link to make this thing pop up and see the different pages. But there truly are 620 some images in here. Very exhaustive test. So let's kind of walk through this. By the way, shameless plug up here for ZimmWriter. You can learn more about ZimmWriter here. And then also, unlike other AI writers, I don't just give you the software and let you go. I create free stuff for you. I have 3 free courses on YouTube on building WordPress websites using AI. I build them over the shoulder. The first one's 8 hours, second one is 6 hours, third one is 10 hours. So if you are truly invested in building a WordPress website using AI, watch these courses. I'll walk you through the entire process step by step. So let's talk about this test. So the top row right here is the prompt that I use to generate each of these images. I use the identical prompt on each of these different image models. So it truly is a comparative test. All right, we're looking at the identical prompt being used for each of these different image models. And then down here on this column, we have the different image models. So just to tell you, just to explain what we're dealing with, OpenAI has a GPT image 1 high. This is the same one that's inside of ChatGPT, but we're just using the API here. Now there's a couple different variations. There's high, medium, and low. I did not test those because I have found the medium and the low, while they are less expensive, they don't do a good job on text. They do a good job on non-text, so those are not relevant. I did high. The problem is each of these images cost me $0.25. Now, not only is this expensive, the other downside is they don't have a wide range of aspect ratios. They don't have 9:16, which just boggles my mind. Why don't they have 9:16? That's why these images look a little bit weird compared to these images from an aspect ratio perspective. But yeah, they don't have 9:16. The next image model is Google Image Gen 4. This is a model by Google. A lot less expensive than OpenAI's model, right? So this was $0.25 an image. This is 5 pennies an image. Much less expensive. Then I tested 3 different ideogram models. I'm just testing ideogram 3 because that's the future. That's what they're going to be focusing on. They're phasing out ideogram 2 as far as I'm aware. They're just focused on 3. There's 3 different quality settings. There's a quality, a balanced, and a turbo. The price changes respectively. And then also there's options to turn on a magic prompt where they'll take your prompt and redo the prompt into what they think is better. We're not doing that. I wanted to keep the identical prompts used for everything. So the magic prompt for each of these is off. And then there's a style setting that you can choose. I just chose style auto. Okay, so I'm letting ideogram come up with the best style to make it consistent for this test. And then we have 3 HiDream models. Now HiDream's really interesting. It's an open source ideogram alternative. I integrate this inside of ZimmWriter through a provider called Runware. If you don't know about Runware, you should learn about Runware. Runware provides open source models. That's all they do. They don't host closed source models. And I don't know how they've done it, but they can generate these images for a fraction of the cost on what it would cost on other providers. So a provider like FAL, for instance, might cost 10 times more for a particular open source model to use to generate one image. than Runware would. So Runware, extremely inexpensive, but for that inexpensive cost, you get a lot of bang for your buck. HiDream Full is almost 1 penny. HiDream Dev is half of a penny, and then HiDream Fast would be a quarter of a penny. You can tell that it gets the flourishes and the objects around the image get a little bit less prevalent as we go down in cost, but it's still, for a quarter of a penny, that's pretty good quality right there. Now, Flux Ultra is very interesting. It's a universal model, in my opinion. It does great at non-text stuff, but then if you want to do some text, it does a pretty good job too. So we'll look at that. And then finally, Recraft. I included Recraft because it is a model that's designed for text. I'm not super impressed with it, but there are some things that it can do that are actually quite interesting. So we'll look at that too. So those are the different models. These are the different prompts. Now, when we're reviewing this, there's a couple things that I want us to look at when we're judging the quality. The first question is the text rendered properly, or are there misspellings? And just to remind you, the reason I did 3 examples of each model instead of just picking the best one is to truly show you what you can expect to get. Each model, any model, is going to screw up on some text sometimes. Some AI models will screw up on the text more frequently than others. So by doing 3 tests on the same prompt for each model, you can get a better idea on how frequently it's going to mess up on that text. So number 1, we're going to check if the text is rendered properly. The second thing I want you to do is just look to see if the rest of the stuff in the image is accurate. So we said around the edges, photorealistic elements create visual interest, a carved wooden spoon, fresh orange slices, cinnamon sticks. So we said photorealistic elements. Then it's hard for the AI when it's doing text to then also do other things like photorealism and things like that. I've noticed that's really hard. Flux Ultra is actually pretty good at that. But again, you don't get the consistently correct text that you would with some of these other image models. So photorealism is a very hard thing for the AI to do if it's putting text on the images. So we'll look at that. And then finally, look at the length of the prompt. The longer the prompt is, there's more things that the AI has to remember to do. And that can be harder in terms of generating images. We're really putting the AI through its paces right now. Let's kind of look at some of these things. Let's look at the accuracy of the text first of all. So zesty Latin-inspired Thanksgiving turkey recipe, that looks correct. This one looks correct. This one's wrong, or it says Aten inspired, so not Latin. So it left out the L unless this T is supposed to be an L, which actually that looks like Satan-inspired Thanksgiving turkey recipe. I don't think I want to have a Satan-inspired turkey recipe, but yeah, even OpenAI's GPT image model that costs a quarter an image can mess up. As far as the photorealistic elements, I would think that these are like a hybrid between photorealistic and some kind of weird sketch. You can definitely tell this is AI. Otherwise, how would you make something like this? It's not crayon, it's not marker, it's not, I don't know what this is. So is this good? Is this bad? I don't know. You'll have to figure out for your use case if that's something you want, but I was surprised by this. Now let's look at Google's image gen. So zesty Latin-inspired Thanksgiving turkey recipe. Looks like the text is correct on all of these, and the elements, the objects look more photorealistic than OpenAI's. So this looks nice. Not bad for a nickel. Now Ideogram, very interesting. I'm very impressed with Ideogram in general, but here I wasn't too impressed with because while I love the stylish text, the objects are, it's almost like clip art. I don't like this. I don't want this in here. I want something that looks like this up here. So not happy with Ideogram in these examples, but maybe this is kind of what you're going for, right? It all gets back to your use case. Let's look at HiDream. Now HiDream, out of the HiDream Full, so the most expensive HiDream where each of these images was a penny, I like this font the most, and it looks like it got the text right on all of these. So that's pretty good for a model that costs a penny per image. I like the font though on this the most. It's like a stylish type of font, whereas this, it's too plain to me. So with HiDream, you end up getting some more of these simple font choices. But even the least expensive model, which is a quarter of 1 penny, so a fourth of 1 penny, still did great for the text. Now, obviously, you're getting some of those renders for these objects around here, not photorealistic, but that's pretty good for a quarter of a penny. Now, Flux Ultra, all right, it screws stuff up. Zesty, Aten, Latin-inspired Thanksgiving turkey recipe. Zesty, Latin-inspired Thanksgiving turkey. There's no recipe in it. There's just turkey. And then because these image models were trained on millions and millions of images, Sometimes it picks things up and puts it like where it thinks it should go. So it decided to create some kind of a link to a website down here, probably because a lot of the training data it had links to a website down here. So that's why we're getting this right here. Now, in terms of these turkeys here, these are the most photorealistic images I've seen. And again, that's very hard to do when you're having the AI multitask by both trying to accurately write the text, but then also create this photorealistic image. Very hard for it to do. But I like that it tried. It really tried very hard. You get all these different objects over here. Looks really good. But if you're going to use Flux Ultra, you're going to have to generate a lot of different samples and pick the one that works. Pick the one with the correct text and looks right and stuff like that. Let's look at Recraft. So this is Recraft. Recraft is very simple. It's just very simple. Yeah, it gets the text right, but it's so minimalistic. And maybe that's what you're going for. Let's look at some other different examples. These are all kind of recipe stuff. This was interesting. This is word art design displaying a human footprint silhouette constructed entirely from the text. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The letters follow the footprint contours with curved typography. What really surprised me was OpenAI's model screwed it up. A begins with a single step. Like it just can't do this, which again, it surprised me because OpenAI's GPT model is extremely powerful. It's a quarter per image, but it could not do this, which was really surprising. Google's image model struggled with this too. We have a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So it has that, but then it didn't know what to do with the toes. So the toes get screwed up. Ideogram did a lot better. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It did really well on these. Even the least expensive ideogram, the Ideogram 3 Turbo, which is 3 pennies per image, did a great job on these. Now, HiDream's interesting because we get messed up text here. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with IA single step. So it messed stuff up here, messed up here. So the text is all messed up and it had some kind of weird signature down below, probably because it was trained on something similar to this. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So this is interesting. HiDream Dev, 2 out of 3 are correct compared to the more expensive HiDream where all of them are incorrect. You know, go figure. That's really interesting. Now this is the least expensive HiDream. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Journey of 1,000 miles. They're all perfect. Cut our price in 4 and it's completely accurate now. So go figure. Now Flux Ultra. This is what I was talking about over here. We haven't looked at these two. Flux Ultra does a great job at just adding all kinds of different things in here, but it's going to be hit or miss whether or not you get the text correct. So we just have lots of different words in here. Some of these words aren't real words. Aluani, fun, miles, mupless. So I don't know. But it tries so hard. I love Flux Ultra. And then finally, Recraft. This is pretty bad. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So it can't wrap that text. So if you want to wrap the text around different objects and things, Recraft is not what you want to use. Let's see, what else? Is there anything else I want to go through? That you can look at this at your leisure. I'm not going to go through every single one. Here's more recipe stuff. In these examples, we have like text on top, and then down below, we have the actual dish. And so you go through these and see what looks realistic and what doesn't. Ideogram actually in these instances started to make this look realistic. So definitely go through all of these examples and check it out. Let's go to page 2, see if there's anything here I want to show you. I have this YouTube channel I made with my mother-in-law called Stories with Mimi Laura. I haven't done anything with it for a little while. We'd make a story, she'd come up with a plot, and then we would have the AI kind of flesh it out, and then we'd create some illustrations for it, and then she would record the lines, and then we put it out on YouTube. So it was a cool thing for me to spend some time with my mother-in-law. And we wrote this story called Jeff and the Giant Booger. And it was like this giant, he's picking his nose, he's flinging it down on the town, and the town's becoming inundated with these giant boogers. Pretty cool story. Go check it out. Stories with Mimi Laura. But I was thinking, what if the AI had to come up with a book cover? Because I know there's a lot of people that are interested in making books with AI. And if you make a book, you have to make a book cover. Now, the prompt starts out by saying a hand is delicately holding a children's illustrative hard book called Jeff and the Giant Booger. So in each of these, you will get a hand holding the book. If you don't want that, you can just prompt that out. But I was impressed with all of these different examples. The fingers were great on a lot of them. A lot of times the AI will mess up fingers. Fingers were great. The book, it looks chewed up at the top. Maybe Fido was chewing on it. But these look like real books that somebody was actually holding. You got a bookcase over here. Now Recraft, look at that. You actually have this background that looks like someone's holding it up in their house. I'm not impressed with Recraft often, but this is pretty cool. So look at all of these different examples. I won't go through any more. And tell me what you think. Drop a comment down below. Tell me what your use case is and which model you think is best for whatever you're doing. I'd really like to hear that. So that's it. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you have any questions, just drop them down below. I'll try my best to answer them. If you have deeper dive questions, join our Facebook group. There's almost 15,000 members, completely free to join, and we can better answer your questions for you. Links down below to ZimmWriter and my free courses and everything. Check them out at your leisure. And other than that, hey, good luck with your content generation. Good luck with your image generation, and I'll talk to you later.